One of the meetings is 14th of February, which is not some 12 days. And it was a matter of some interest.
I think for you, Chair, we haven't had a meeting of this committee since the 14th of February. So there was due to be one on the Okay, is any matters arise, or are we happy to approve them as an accurate record?
I agree. Okay.
Okay,
Are you sure these are right? These dates are right?
the right to my diary.
We did the we did the changes to the terms and conditions as a special meeting on the 7th of February, and the appointment of the chief executive on the 14th of February. That was the order which it all happened. That's simply a correction to the earlier minutes.
Just read it again.
Okay.
Item 60, please. Pass it down.
Cool.
Okay, if you're all happy, I'll sign the list.
Have you all yes no?
Just regarding the exempt items, item 11 was actually discussed in our open meeting last time. So we're proposing to do the same, but the item 10 stays an exempt item. So, okay.
Okay, for one, having had a quick look at the appendix, I'm taking the talk about simply the appendices that are here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I couldn't really spot anything specific out of that. It's just a load of numbers and a load of fixed term contract being
I think Councillor Wood, you might be referring to item 10,
yeah.
which is the workforce change. We are recommending that appendix stays in.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Given that it doesn't identify the person, does it? Just talks about fixed. Without wishing to discuss anything that's in the mind, it's not exempt yet if you're on base, not being good. But just talk about fixed term contract.
It's exempt use of how individuals could be identified through the workforce.
How would you do that then? I mean, I've had a bit of a, I don't know what we call it, when Stephen was coming along, we've had a lot of these that have said that there is no action. I can see no reason at all why the except I'm just trying to find out. Well, this is, I mean, I've been around the council a lot, I would find it really difficult, even I would find it really difficult to identify individuals off the back of that appendix.
Through you, Chair, we have reviewed the use of the exempt appendix, and that is one that has remained consistently exempt for each of the meetings, and it is because people can be identified through the process. And it may be that they can be identified by publicly, by publicising it in the open
On the basis of consistency, then, if we just, my view is that we just continue with item 10 as an exempt item.
Well, we'll take it close at the moment, we'll take it close. But
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot. Can you see how you word it?
Yes, I can, Chair.
Have you?
Because if people know that people are on the wrong side of the change relation, then yes, they might be able to identify them.
So the testing whether or not through effective reasonable inquiry the doctor or the workhouse who the individuals could be as a result of that. Whilst this may not be apparent immediately from here, it could be do some reasonable inquiries so that some information could enable those identity to be revealed on the individual.
Through you, Chair, just is that where numbers have been lower, it is more easy to identify individuals. When the numbers are bigger, it becomes difficult. That's always been the case.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the other items then. So our first item on the agenda is item 3, managing attendance, which Tony's going to present to us.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the report. Grants Appointments Committee on the current position of attendance management. As the committee will be aware, this is a regular report going on a generally a quarterly basis. The report to Employment and Appointments Committee in November 2012, that results for quarter 2, at 2.14 days of disappointing. This coupled with quarter 3's figures demonstrate continuing trend in levels of absence across the authority. The projected end figure of 10.51 days currently against the target of 9.5 days. These figures are lapsed, so as ever may be subject to some change in the future. Clear that efficient course of concern, and we'll come to that later on in the report. Prior to the report sets out the reasons for absence. It shows that across the council, mental health continues to be the most frequent cause of absence. This includes anxiety, stress and depression. That is set out as Appendix 2. The report talks about the initiatives that we have taken with the aim of improving performance. And in paragraph 2.3.3 sets out the offer particularly around stress management tools for managing staff with the learning of stress, which is launched on the National Stress Awareness Day on 7th November, which is part of an overall offer on stress, which includes a number of different initiatives which are set out. Also set out details of the food coordination programme which we ran, and provide details of the new employee assistance programme, which is will take effect from the 1st of April with the new service provider. It's acknowledged that this is a difficult and uncertain situation for employees currently with the council, and the programme has been designed and made available for staff and managers to assist them to cope with the current need of change. This is set out in Cllr 2.3.8 of the report. Again, the programme and sessions are available for all staff to attend. As set out earlier, the absence figures are disappointing and some cause of concern. So we have put in place some specific initiatives to try and address that as soon as possible. There will be systematic training and absence management, which will be mandatory for all managers. This will include further specific training on management of stress. And the role and responsibility of line managers in managing absence will be reinforced in the organisation through briefings and other communication. Managing attendance will form targets for managers with performance appraisal. And it is proposed to make a number of policy changes to the attendance management policy in relation to long-term sickness, which will include a mandatory referral to occupational health for all absences of the 4-week point, to assist in managing the long-term absence, and a mandatory case review of 4 weeks of occupational health, allowing management in charge and again to look at an action plan to manage the particular absence. In terms of reporting absence, all heads of service will now be required to sign off a weekly attendance return for their department, which will strengthen the accountability and provide immediate oversight of the issues. This will be implemented
said 4 weeks for stress. I mean, are we, that's what it says.
That's actually
Yeah. So I should come on that one. Yeah. And the issue is that after the 4-week period, there will be a mandatory referral to occupational health.
Yeah, well, I can't have a mandatory referral for occupational health after a week. It's all off on stress for a week. Why do I have a mandatory referral?
There is a mandatory referral for stress, actually does go straight through. I would say 4 weeks, it's mandatory for 4 weeks. For some areas, we will get people through earlier. And if the committee wanted to change that, it's fine, but what we've said is up to 4 weeks.
But
So we
is
try
it-
and get through people through as soon as we can.
Because what I don't see here, I mean, you mentioned about one trigger in terms of stress, also about the, front letters when people have been on what the key triggers are at the moment, when they're supposed to have an interview with the manager, that the return is meant to be done, followed up and so on. So all our super duper all signal dancing system that we bought in, didn't we? So we can tie the two things together. I mean, what are the current triggers? And are we following best practice, or is this sort of lagging behind it? Because it seems to me that our triggers, the ones we just talked about, seem to be lagging behind other areas of the public sector. So what exactly are the triggers at the moment for the different types of sick leave, and whether interview is required with the manager or something?
We have a number of triggers which are actually set out in the policy. The recommendations were to add additional requirements into the policy, and what's there in front of you. The policy actually has a trigger of 3 and 6, 3 absences in 6 months, but 4 and 12. And that triggers a number of different processes. And they trigger a process which can also happen at any stage if the manager has concern about their absence. So that is all laid out in the policy.
Yeah, but through you, Chair, the policy isn't working. It's costing us £9.2 million at the moment. So what I'm asking, I suppose, is there a requirement for this committee or whatever to review what that policy is in line with what else is going on in the public sector in order to, or the best practice of the public sector, in order to start attacking what is a huge cost for the council taxpayer, but also, bad news for the individuals concerned. The individuals concerned are coming to work and all that other stuff. So there's clearly things that need to be addressed. So our residents are receiving the services that they pay for. In some cases, we're having to replace people with other costs, so opportunity costs and placement costs, all that sort of stuff. And if the policy isn't working, wouldn't we better to have and we've been trying to do this for quite a few years, wouldn't we better to have a review of our policy to see how it aligns against current thinking in the public sector and potentially the private sector or whatever? That would be my review.
Before, do you want to answer that? Adrian?
I'm happy to respond if other members want to know. In terms of the policy is, has been and is benchmarked against other policies. The issue may well not so much be with the policy, but the application of the policy. Because when we introduced the policy in 2010, 11, 12, the level of absence had come down. And clearly it's risen this year, and it is of particular concern. Obviously because of the cost, but also because of the fact that there are a number of our staff who are unwell and suffering from stress that needs to be tackled. So we've put in place a whole range of support mechanisms around stress. E-learning package is one that can go to all employees, but we have targeted support working in the NHS for those people to support them with stress. In terms of the application of the policy, this has been discussed with the Chief Executive and the Executive team. The intention is to roll out, and it's here within the report where we talk about going back over, for example, those managers who may not have attended the absence training to make sure they've attended and understand the application of the policy. But also, as you're aware, we go through a management restructure process. By the end of May, we would aim to know which managers are in place at senior manager, management team leader level. We will be running some big briefing sessions with those managers to talk to them again about the policy, about their role in applying it. We will then feed that into the performance appraisal in June and July for those managers. So I absolutely understand the level of concern about it, and that concern is shared from the officers. And what we want to do is to go out and reinforce the application of the policy. We then need to follow it up with the data. Now, data and reports do go out to managers. What we haven't actually got yet sorted is that systematic monitoring against the triggers. But that will be in place again by June as well to go out and support this. So I think there are issues about policy application as well as the rise in actual sickness through stress and other reasons.
I know Phil and Adrian wanted to thanks for that, Chris.
Okay, I mean, I was just going to say, it's entirely surprising, isn't it, paragraph 2.3.8, that in an era of massive savage cuts from central government, that people in the public sector feel under stress. And I'd be surprised, actually, if this kind of trend wasn't apparent in many public sector organisations which are being, attacked by government. So, let me make that point first. But the question I was going to just clarify is the kind of criticisms you've made, this is more of the same. Can you just identify of the things that you said we're doing to address this, which are the things that are new that we've not tried before? Just let's be clear about that.
I think the first thing my view would be that is different is that actually with our new leadership and the chief executive, we have far more management accountability in terms of expectations that's being cascaded through the organisation. That we will support our employees, but also we need to apply the policy to make sure that we're getting the support, but also we're intervening where we need to. And that is actually different in that approach. We had the discussion in our management team, the notes were cascaded out, briefings to departmental management teams. We've also brought the reporting through of absence, which comes through our local level managers, straight through, so the heads of service sign off on a weekly basis. So they will have a list of everyone's been absent on a weekly basis, which they sign off on returns. That helps to ensure the accuracy of our data, but it also means that we're accountable and having oversight of that. And within that report, we then also have whether return to work interviews have happened and how long they've been off. So they will have that insight. And there were very few, there were no objections to that process. It's clearly this is important. So we've moved the accountability right up the chain in the organisation. So people, managers are accountable at every level. The heads of service are accountable in their service area. What we have also done is to introduce some additional support in occupational health and the new offer that we have to support people through the new contract. So we have actually improved that offer through the Employee Assistance Programme, which is a much wider range of support. We've also improved our individual support for individuals through working with the NHS, who are also putting into our support programme, which is detailed at paragraph, just taking my page out, which paragraph is that? Paragraph 2.33. So we've actually introduced lots of stress and resilience training. Because when we talk about long-term illness and stress, what we need to aim to do is to make sure that we try and keep employees in work. Because once they've got sick, it's actually quite difficult to manage their return to work. So we've introduced more and more training. So there are measures at the moment that we put in place to try and support, but also to give that accountability.
Okay, and then just to finish the point. So, I mean, in a sense, we need to give these new techniques and opportunities there before we see the impact. I mean, presumably a lot of these are fairly recent.
There are some long-term issues. What we will say is that we also have to recognise that we are going through a management restructure. And, a number of our managers are, all of our managers are at risk. They were all declared at risk as part of that management restructure back in November. We're working through that, and of course it's published about taking all of those proposals today. And once we're absolutely clear which managers are slotted into which post, we'll be actually targeting them then and supporting them in terms of taking that forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Adrian, you
but people vary an awful lot in the reaction to conditions they work in. Some people have very great good fortune
I would have thought if we know someone's off with stress, we would want a professional person to be involved with that as soon as possible. And the other thing you said about 3 absences is a trigger. A trigger for what precisely? Because again, I've seen organisations where it's 3 days is the trigger for action as opposed to 3 absences. So again, I'm saying 10.5 days, it's very disappointing, stroke poor. It's costing the people of Wirral and the administration in terms of the cuts it itself has made, making all these people, putting all these people at risk. So it wasn't made, well, I was here when you did it, so it was you. So you can't blame the government for that. So in terms of those sorts of issues, it seems to me that it does warrant looking at the overall policy again. I'm delighted to hear that the management is going to take this matter seriously. I thought the management was already taking it seriously. If it wasn't, in fact, that's what it's saying. That was, a very cavalier attitude to take with what is people's services and public money.
Sorry, Chair, can I just confirm for the record? Didn't say that it hadn't been taken seriously previously. I'm saying it's with the new chief executive and leadership approach. We have a clear intention as to how we're going to take forward and reinforce the application of our policies.
Okay, I'd just like to comment for a moment. These figures are up to the end of February. Yeah. Okay. So what we're being asked to do here then is to agree proposed policy changes and obviously, as Bill mentioned, with the proposals we would expect some improvement. One thing we're not clear about is the comparison between our authority and other public sector organisations. It's not possible to make that comparison at this early stage, but perhaps we could have some insight into that at a later date.
Yes, Chair. We do normally publish comparative figures when they're available. But the way that we measure the absence is consistent convention across other authorities. So we normally bring forward a comparison against other metropolitan authorities once it's published at the year end. So that's when we're going to show that.
Can I suggest then that based upon your comments, Phil, that it would be reasonable to see how the effects on our staff are being reflected in other authorities under the same pressures as yourself? So perhaps at some future date you could come back to us on that. What we're being asked to do in the recommendations of the report is to note
Okay, sorry. Can I just
do it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I say first of all that if someone is off sick,
Yeah.
it is our place to believe that they are genuinely sick, and we're not punishing them and harassing them after, like Councillor Green has suggested, after a week. It is a ridiculous thing, especially when most of these people are often mental health problems. Can I just ask, the mandatory case review at 4 weeks, I think, is a really good idea. Does that include the person, or is it just...
Well, where possible, it would include the person,
It
because
would
then they would help to know what the solution would be. If we're not able to involve the person, we would need to be taking some, taking action to go ahead with or without them. But that is
The only thing I would suggest, though, Chris, is that it might be a good idea for the person who's off sick to be seen by occupational health before the case review, so that if there's anything they want to talk about on a personal basis,
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Well, I was about to say, as I say, we've been asked to note the contents of the report and also to agree proposed policy changes, and I for one feel that we need to see how these policy changes are going to affect the attendance, which I think we all take seriously. And also, perhaps ask that, as I say, you report back to us at some future date as to comparison between our authority and the public sector authorities.
Can I move an amendment to that?
we're happy then to agree the recommendations, that we note the contents of the report and agree the policy changes in relation to the management of long-term.
The emphasis on the word policy changes, Chair.
Right. Okay.
Just agree, Chair.
Okay, if we move on to item 4, which, again, you can talk us through that, Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is a regular report for committee which provides an update on managing workforce change and redeployment. Current position set out in paragraph 3, and there's significant changes across the council in terms of restructures that have taken place. As a result, there's been some redeployment situation across the council. Consultation programme is underway with staff and trade unions regarding those changes. These are set out in paragraphs 3.2 and 3.3. In particular, the consultation process for staff affected by restructuring and service changes include group consultations, individual consultation packs, one-to-one meetings with staff. Since December 2012, there's been 206 one-to-one consultations with staff, and that's moved on since the support was written. Weekly team meetings in each department, departmental and corporate joint consultative committees, facilities for employees to provide feedback about proposed changes to their services, and job roles being dedicated email address, and all issues that have been raised in the consultation meetings will be involved and responded to by directors. Feedback will be reported on and responded to the consultation reports, which will feed into a final decision-making process on the restructures. So all that work's been taking place at the moment. As a result, there's currently 46 employees on the redeployment register, and which one outlines the number of redeployed by department and reason. Since the Employment Committee last met in November 2012, the report last taken on this issue, there have been 25 employees that have been resolved on redeployment, and that's set out in 2.7. Paragraph 4 of the report sets out the support that's been put in place to what is a significant period of change for employees. This programme is attached to the report and sets out the initiatives and sessions that are available for staff who are impacted on the changes that are taking place. This includes a mix of workshops and skills of the Wirral programme, or support by external partners, the Job Centre and National Career Service. Support for managers is also being able to enable and support others through change, and this information is available on the internet. The council has 4.4. The council has some interest for voluntary service and retirement in order to mitigate the risk of compulsory redundancies, and these volunteers will currently be considered against the posts that are affected by these structures. That's the questions.
Take the view that John Hale does run the church's meetings, that you've all read the report. So, do we have any questions from them?
Yeah.
Well,
Always ask questions. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can see that we're operating the redeployment scheme, and it is challenging, I would imagine. Very challenging. Without wishing to go into details of the individuals or even the numbers, I'm just looking at the appendix. I'm not going to talk about it.
yeah.
There seems to be a number on here.
To exempt, next on this particular item.
Well, I'm not going to talk about individual items, individual lines of the appendix. I'm going to talk about the number of proposed redundancies that we're talking about. From the 15th of April, redundancy notices to be issued. I was wondering, by not going into the detailed appendices, if you prefer me to ask the question of the head of HR, could she tell me how many people who are currently eligible for the redeployment list are we about to, or from the 15th of April, issue
Through Chair, I couldn't give an answer to that at this present time. As we've outlined in...
Sorry, just if you can't think of that. On this appendices that we're not going to talk about, there is a whole tranche of them on here. Isn't there? Is this the final list? Well, I don't know why you want to keep it, because we're not talking numbers here. So we're talking numbers about how many redundancies the council, and I'm presuming that's compulsory redundancies, the council about to make. Now that's, what's secret about that? Or why would you want to keep that secret? I'm just trying to find out, as a member of the council, I know it's a bit old-fashioned, but I'd just like to know how many we're talking about. There's certainly a number on here. Is this the complete list? Are there more than that? Are we, as a committee, as a member,
Well, surely it's going to be discussed when we come to the executive vote.
well, I can see, surely the public, let alone anyone else, has the right to know that we're about to issue compulsory redundancies. What's the secrecy about that? You're quite happy making everyone, putting everyone at risk, the administration.
No, that's a legal requirement.
So, we're not playing. The people are playing games. The people are saying they're not prepared to say what is in here. And I can see no reason why we can't look at overall numbers without either, because you can't possibly suggest that's identifying individual.
Council Kearney knows very well what's happening is a direct consequence of his governance.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And he also should know that a statutory requirement of consultation. He doesn't know that yet, go back to school.
I'm just going to ask Chris just to take some advice from Sergio on this.
Chair, my difficulty with this particular issue is I think in order to answer the question fully, maybe we do need to discuss this particular issue in exam session in order to provide more full and detailed debate and discussion around various
That's just a number. That's a name. That's a number.
Through you, Chair, the number of employees on the redeployment register is in the open report, paragraph 3.6 to 46.
Yeah.
I can answer a question in this session about where those 46 are up to.
So you're sorry, Chair. We're saying we're unprepared to answer a question that says how many people have been identified that we are going to issue compulsory redundancy notices to. We're not prepared to talk about this in the public session. Is that right?
Okay.
Through you, Chair, of that number, the answer that I started to give was that those employees are on the redeployment register. The redeployment period is a 3-month period. So we move them through the 3-month period with regular reviews. At the end of the 3-month period, we should, and our policy says that they are issued with their notice. During that period, we seek to mitigate that and to redeploy them. We've sought to do that by asking for volunteers for voluntary severance. We're seeking to match those volunteers against those people, first and foremost, on the redeployment list. So by the time we get to the 15th of April, we will have a better picture of how many people at that stage have been on the redeployment list for 3 months. That's why I can't at this stage answer the question. We've gone back to the first stage of the volunteers and sought to respond to the volunteers where they will mitigate the cost of redundancies and to collapse ring fences so that people can actually be moved into the new structure. That process is ongoing. The directors are talking to their staff at the moment and we're looking for their responses next week. I then can't confirm of the 48 how many will still be on the 46. Sorry. How many will be on the redeployment register at the end of the 3 months. But in reporting to you, we're reporting against the triggers of the redeployment process. So yes, we do need to work that. That is work in progress.
Okay. I'm not satisfied with that answer.
I just wonder why going back to this whole business about trying to keep things secret, which are, tragedies for the individual concern, but more about political embarrassment than it is about actually getting to check that. I wonder why council is retreating back into these sort of positions. I
think we're asking for our officers to give us figures that are not appropriate or timely at this moment in time. We've had to appropriately we ask or put our officers under pressure to answer the question that cannot be answered until the process is duly followed. So I think we need to move on.
Move on to the next one.
So
that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's all, I think, to me, Chair,
Judge, you're asking us to ask the officers to give us a figure they can't give at this stage until the process is followed. And it's not followed, is otherwise we're just putting figures out there.
well, actually, it's just a question of counting, isn't it? The issue to me is we haven't had, even if you go back to the minutes that were circulated at the beginning of the meeting, I asked a question of the trade union representative, spoke at the meeting, talk about the difference between voluntary and compulsory redundancy. This is quite I would suggest it, quite a big issue for the council in terms of the decisions it was making. Now, I don't see why we can have a difference of opinion, we can argue backwards and forwards. It seems what you've said on here seems to be quite quite clear that the administration take the decisions they do and it has the impacts that it has. And some of that is potentially compulsory redundancy. So it strikes me as it's a reasonable thing for this committee to discuss. And I think it's also reasonable that the public should know what we're discussing, what potential consequences are. Now, what I find extraordinary is we're now being told that we're not even allowed to talk about the numbers of people that are on this list, let alone, anything else about the reasons and the consequences. So we get thrown in some out.
I think Phil and Adrian, but we've been clearly told 93.6 there are 46 employees on the